For 63 years, I swallowed my words so other people wouldn't be uncomfortable. I smiled. I nodded. I kept the peace. And you know what it got me? A life I didn't even recognize. Give me 8 minutes, and I'll save you from making the exact same invisible mistake. My name is Earl. I'm 82 years old. Born in 1944, right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Grew up on Lamar Avenue, 2 blocks from a barber shop that ain't there no more. My mama worked 3 jobs. My daddy drove a delivery truck for a bottling company, the one with the red label. You know the one. And the very first lesson they taught me, before I could even tie my shoes, was this: don't make waves. Be polite. Say yes sir, no ma'am. Keep your head down and your mouth shut, and the world will treat you right. And I believed that. Lord, I believed that with everything I had. I carried that lesson like a Bible verse, through grade school, through high school, through 34 years working at a printing plant on the south side of town, through a marriage, through raising 2 kids, through burying both my parents. I carried it all the way to this chair I'm sitting in right now at 82, with a body full of regret and a throat full of words I never said. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's just being polite. That's just being a good person. No, it is not. And that right there, that confusion between being kind and being silent, is the most dangerous lie you will ever tell yourself. Let me tell you about a man named Gerald. Gerald worked at the same plant I did. Started in 1971, a year after me. Good man. Quiet. Gerald never argued. Not once. Not with management, not with the union rep, not with his own wife. If somebody said something Gerald disagreed with, you know what Gerald did? He swallowed it, folded his hands, looked at the floor, smiled. We used to eat lunch together in the break room, little metal table by the window that faced the parking lot. And one day, must have been around 1986, our supervisor, a man named Dale Hutchins, comes in and tells Gerald he's being moved to the night shift. No raise, no discussion. Just, Gerald, we need you on nights starting Monday. Now Gerald had 2 little girls at home. Moving to nights meant he'd leave the house before they got home from school and come back after they were asleep. He'd become a ghost in his own home. And you know what Gerald said? Yes, sir. And he looked over at me with these eyes that were just flat, empty, like somebody had turned off a light inside him. I should have said something. I should have stood up and said, Dale, that ain't right and you know it. But I didn't, because I was Gerald too. We were the same man, 2 quiet men staring at their sandwiches, swallowing words with every bite. Gerald worked nights for 11 years. 11 years of missing bedtimes, missing homework at the kitchen table, missing Saturday morning cartoons with his girls. And when he finally came back to days, his daughters were grown, moved out, one of them to Chicago, the other one, I think somewhere in Ohio. They didn't know him. Not really. He was the man who left money on the counter and was gone before sunrise. Gerald dropped dead at 64. Right there on the plant floor. Heart gave out, and I stood at his funeral in a church on Poplar Avenue. The one with the crooked steeple, and his oldest daughter gave the eulogy, and she said my father was a good man. He was quiet, he was gentle, and everybody nodded, like being quiet and gentle was the highest compliment a man could receive. But here's the part that haunts me to this day. After the service, I walked up to his daughter, and I said, your daddy talked about you girls every single day. And she looked at me and she said, I wish he had talked to US. That sentence broke something in me because I realized Gerald didn't die of a heart attack. Gerald died of silence. He died of 60-some years of swallowing everything, keeping it all pressed down in his chest like a fist, and his heart just couldn't hold it anymore, and I was doing the exact same thing. But that wasn't the hardest pill to swallow. Let me tell you about my wife. Her name was Lorraine. Lorraine and I were married for 38 years. She was a hard woman sometimes, sharp when she was stressed, which she usually was. And look, I'm not telling you she was a bad person. She wasn't. But Lorraine had opinions about everything. What I wore, what I ate, what time I went to bed, who I talked to on the phone, and every single time she told me how things were going to be, I said, okay, just like my mama taught me, don't make waves. I wanted to go fishing on Saturdays with my friend James. Lorraine didn't like James, said he was a bad influence. James was a 60-year-old man who liked bass fishing and sweet tea, but I stopped going because it was easier to say okay than to have the conversation. I wanted to take a woodworking class at the community center on Tuesdays. Lorraine said it was a waste of money. $12 a session, $12. But I didn't go because the silence after an argument was worse than the silence of giving up. You know what I spent my evenings doing instead? Sitting in a recliner watching whatever Lorraine wanted to watch. For 38 years, I couldn't tell you a single show I actually enjoyed. Not one. Because I never picked. Never once. And here's where the knife goes in. When Lorraine passed in 2017, I sat in that house alone for the first time. And I looked around that living room, the furniture she picked, the paint color she chose, the pictures on the wall she arranged, and I realized something so devastating I had to sit down on the floor. I didn't live in that house. She did. I just existed in it. I had no hobbies, no friends left, no opinions. I didn't even know what kind of music I liked because I'd spent 38 years listening to hers. I was a stranger in my own life. 82 years old, and I couldn't answer the simplest question a person can ask themselves. What do you want? I know what you're saying inside your head right now. That won't happen to me. I'm not that passive. Let me tell you a story that'll change your mind. I had a neighbor named Margaret. Margaret lived 3 doors down, and Margaret had a son, Dennis, who was not a good man. Not violent, nothing like that. Just selfish. Dennis would come by every few weeks, ask his mama for money. 100 here, 200 there. And Margaret gave it every single time. She'd dip into her retirement, her savings. That little jar she kept in the kitchen cabinet behind the flour, the one with the rubber band around it. And I asked her once, I said, Margaret, why don't you tell that boy no? And she looked at me with the saddest eyes I've ever seen on a living person. And she said, Earl, if I say no, he won't come back. She was paying for his presence, buying visits from her own child, because she'd spent his whole life being agreeable, and now that was the only currency he understood. Don't be Margaret. Now, before you close this and go back to scrolling on your phone or watching somebody dance for 15 seconds, I need you to hear this part. Every single person who ever told me to keep the peace is gone. My mama, my daddy, Gerald, Lorraine, Dr. Whitfield, who told me in 1991 that my blood pressure was fine. Just keep doing what I'm doing. Don't get worked up about things. Dr. Whitfield died in 2003. Heart attack, ironically. I'm still here, still sitting with all these words I should have said 40 years ago. I've buried every person who taught me to be quiet, every last one. But the worst part isn't that they were wrong. The worst part is that being quiet felt like kindness. It felt like I was doing the right thing. That's why it's so dangerous. It doesn't look like a mistake. It looks like virtue. It looks like patience. It looks like humility. But it's not. Silence isn't peace. Silence is just a war you're fighting alone inside your own chest. where nobody can see the casualties. So let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest. When's the last time somebody asked you what you wanted, and you actually told them the truth? Not what was convenient, not what would avoid the argument. The truth. When's the last time you said no and didn't apologize for it? When's the last time you picked the restaurant, picked the movie, said, actually, I disagree in a meeting, and didn't spend 3 hours afterward worrying about what people thought? If you can't remember, you're already where I was. You just don't know it yet. The lesson I'm giving you, the one that took me 63 miserable years to learn, is embarrassingly simple. So simple you'll want to dismiss it. I would have at your age. I would have nodded politely and gone right back to swallowing my words. Here it is. Your silence is not a gift you're giving other people. It's a piece of yourself you're throwing away. And you throw away enough pieces, there's nothing left, just a shape where a person used to be. What matters is embarrassingly simple. Saying what you mean, meaning what you say, letting people be uncomfortable with your honesty instead of you being uncomfortable with their expectations. That's the whole game. Not followers, not likes, not promotions, not keeping the peace. Your peace. I'm 82 now. I still make my own coffee every morning. I still walk to the mailbox and back even when there's nothing in it. I started going to that woodworking class 4 years ago. $12 a session. I make cutting boards mostly. Sold one last month for $40. Lorraine would have had something to say about that. But Lorraine isn't here. And for the first time in my life, I am. So here's what I need you to do. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels right. Today. Say one true thing to one person that you've been holding back. Just one. Call your mama and tell her what you actually think. Tell your boss you need that raise. Tell your friend that joke they made last week actually hurt your feelings. Tell your partner what you want for dinner instead of saying, I don't care. Start small. Start ugly. Start scared. But for the love of God, start. Because I promise you the silence isn't protecting anybody, least of all you. Now go say what you mean. And if this hit you somewhere real, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe because I still got things to say. And at 82, I am done being quiet.